Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. I am your host, Joe Kuzma. In today's topic, it's football related and it's not football related. Really, it's off the field. And it's these off the field things that are just fueling the fire, and just this particular instance really got underneath my skin, but it's a whole different set of situations that have just kind of like strung together like dominoes, and they're just getting knocked down one by one. And well, for those of you, do you know about the gorilla? I said I wasn't going to talk about the gorilla, and I'm talking about my own personal social media. I'm on all the platforms, and I'm on all the platforms even with Steel City Underground, and I see people's opinions, and I see, well, if you don't know about the gorilla, I wasn't going to talk about the gorilla, but I have to talk about the gorilla, and you'll understand why in a second. But okay, so this small child down in a Cincinnati zoo somehow jumps a fence or squeezes in between something and ends up in this gorilla pit, and the people who run the zoo, the people who rescue this child, end up killing a gorilla. And it really is a no-win situation, no matter which side of the fence, literally speaking, that you are on this particular topic. So this gorilla, everybody's talking about the gorilla. Everyone's talking about the kid. Everyone's telling everybody how to parent their kid. Everyone's telling everyone what they should have done about the gorilla. And in the midst of all of this, we have a Pittsburgh Steeler who makes a comment about the gorilla. And it's because this incident with the gorilla being shot happened in Cincinnati, Ohio, at the Cincinnati Zoo. So, as you may have it, Steelers linebacker Vincent Williams, otherwise known as Vincenzo Williams on Twitter, makes a comment. He tweets, probably ill-advised, as he realizes now that it's deleted, but everyone has captured the screens with their fancy devices that we have these days. And once you put it out in the public domain, it's out in the public domain. And Vince Williams says this: "The gorilla was from Cincinnati, period. I didn't drop one tear. He in a better place now." Oh, man. Okay. I understand the joke is coming from Vince Williams. He's taking a stab at the Cincinnati Bengals, and everyone thinks this is ill-advised. Everyone thinks this is like a really crude joke. Trust me, it's going to get a little darker as we go deeper into this discussion today. But it's these off-field things stemming from on-field situations that are really causing some problems here. And let me tell you, Vince Williams didn't just come out of the blue and start talking smack about Cincinnati, okay? This all stems back from, and we heard recently, from Le'Veon Bell getting hurt not just once, but in 2 different seasons. He has been hurt by the Cincinnati Bengals. And he had made some comments, of which Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless basically told Le'Veon Bell to man up. Not that I agree with Stephen A. Smith, or Skip Bayless for that matter, but they're telling Le'Veon Bell that this is football and this happens. Well, it's kind of tough it's a really tough pill to swallow. And here's why. You go back, and I wrote an article on SteelCityUnderground.com, and you'll have to search for Vontaze Burfict or Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, who came out around the beginning of the year and said some really weird statements about how he doesn't understand the thug reputation, thug being the defensive coordinator's words, his choice of words, not mine. He doesn't understand the thug reputation that Vontaze Burfict has. And I'm going to quote a few items from this article just so you can get some backstory on where we're headed with the Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers saga. Most of us know that this has been very ugly as of late. And Vince Williams making a comment about a gorilla, it's just not helping matters, but just stick with me here. Gunther says, everybody thinks he's this thug, meaning Vontaze Burfict. He doesn't understand this. I think it's awful the way he's being perceived right now is terrible. I feel terrible for the kid. Okay, I could sympathize, but he continues to talk about Burfict's hit on the defenseless Antonio Brown in the Cincinnati Bengals playoff game, that wild card playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he damn near took AB's head off. And he defends it by saying if he wanted to kill that guy, he could have really killed him, but he didn't. I guess he's got to aim lower. I guess I got to teach it different. Well, gee, duh. Do you think? Now, I've gone ad nauseum talking about this particular topic, but it's one of these things where Gunther doesn't see a pattern in Vontaze Burfict, and these guys just don't see a pattern of their behavior and how it dictates and brings us all the way down to yesterday, I think it was, that Vince Williams tweets this out about a gorilla in Cincinnati and saying he's in a better place, taking a jab at the Bengals. This all starts way back where Paul Gunther tries to convince us that this second injury with Le'Veon Bell, he goes on to say, and I quote, "That was a clean hit. You could print that." The guy came out and ran a little option route on him, and Vontaze tackled him, and he just got his feet tangled up underneath him. There was nothing wrong with it. Oh boy. So, when Le'Veon Bell gets hurt, and you've got all of this venom getting spewed whichever way, Vince Williams was one of the players who came out on Twitter and says, if I catch Vontaze on South Beach, I'm painting that boy on sight. Not helping matters whatsoever. So this is just back in last November. So most people are thinking, man, maybe the wounds are healed or whatever. Well, the Bengals, they haven't played another football game since the game they lost to the Steelers. So there's a lot of bad taste left in their mouth, right? So likewise, they're still pouring gasoline on this fire. They have a professional soccer team that just started playing in Cincinnati this year, and they're not a major league soccer team. They're the equivalent of a minor league team. They're considered third tier or third division, so they're not even one down from Major League Soccer, but two down. And the Cincinnati soccer team, their first home game, the first game they're ever going to play against the Pittsburgh team, who is in this same league, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, for those of you familiar with soccer in the area, they're going to have these Cincinnati Bengals players show up to this game and be honorary captains for this game. And they're just trying to piggyback on the controversy that is the Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers. So you have these shenanigans going on during the offseason, aside from maybe an ill-advised joke or attempted a joke by Vince Williams. And you have these players, and the four players that showed up for this game, by the way, as the honorary captains, were Adam Pac-Man Jones, a player who was flagged in that playoff game for bumping a referee, I believe. You have Giovanni Bernard, not without controversy. He was the one who left the game after Ryan Shazier hit him. Domata Peko, who came on the field with his overcoat still over his jersey and took a swing or shoved one of the players, something of that nature. And Kevin Huber, the other person that was designated an honorary captain, who, if you remember, is the Cincinnati Bengals punter who had his jaw broken by Terrence Garvin when Antonio Brown returned a punt for a touchdown a few years ago. Now, those were the honorary captains originally: Vontaze Burfict, Dre Kirkpatrick, and then Jeremy Hill, also not without controversy, having that fumble, of course. They were expected to be there, but they didn't end up attending the ceremony, but they talked a good game before that. And, you know, this is aside from all of the other stuff that has gone on and happened in that wild card playoff game, where you have David DeCastro saying Vontaze Burfict spit on him. And you have Vontaze Burfict questionably driving his knees into Ben Roethlisberger on the ground. And just all this stuff. And then the Joey Porter situation and the Mike Munchak and Reggie Nelson situation. So where am I going with this exactly is I have all kinds of friends who support all kinds of different sports and teams and everything else. So I'm not exactly even sure why this particular friend even shared this, but he shares Vince Williams saying he didn't drop one tear for the gorilla because the gorilla was from Cincinnati. And he says, I guess he's just saying that to get more Twitter followers, to which I couldn't help myself. I had to reply. And I said, it's a well-known fact that he and Vontaze Burfict and the Steelers and Bengals and whatnot, they just don't get along, right? And a Bengals fan just hops on, and this is where it starts to get ugly. And it just says it's a good sign of Squealers consuming his time with a Cincinnati story. Okay. And, like the Bengals players wouldn't do anything petty, like concern themselves with a Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh minor league soccer game rivalry that doesn't exist because they've never played each other before because the Cincinnati team's only been around for 1 month. Now, that's not petty, right? To which, of course, the responses start to vary from Steelers players being involved with Dancing with the Stars, which I don't know how that has any negative connotations or any impact on any Cincinnati Bengals, other than none of them got picked to be on the show. And then there's, of course, the mention of the word rape and players being thrown out of the league and Ben Rapist Burger. Now, rape is not something that you joke about. And it really gets under my skin because how many years ago did this whole Ben Roethlisberger situation occur? It was back in 2010. And he was never charged with a crime. And you could say whatever opinions you want of it. It was an ugly situation at the time. But all it was accusations. Just allegations of misbehavior. How old was Big Ben back then? Mid-20s? Still living the celebrity party life? He already had 2 Super Bowl rings. They were looking forward to maybe adding more, which they almost did that season. And you know what happened? Ben Roethlisberger was never charged with a crime, but he was still suspended for that season. He got his act together. He cleaned it up. But still. And I couldn't imagine being accused of something of this nature, something this serious, something that should not be joked around about. And you have people still to this very day, 6 years and more later, running their mouth, making cute jokes. Oh, I'm sorry. Joking about rape is not a cute joke. It is not even close. Now, mind you, these same people will defend their team and their players and their actions. You even see their coaches doing this. And it's very tasteless. It's one thing to be tasteless and say that a player is faking a concussion. And that's pretty serious when you're questioning someone's health. It's a whole other thing when you get into something of the nature of rape. And mind you, I know some of these fans fairly well. And these are the same people that talk about miscarriages of justice. They talk about like wrongful imprisonment. The Making of a Murderer that was on Netflix. For those of you who didn't see it, I won't spoil it, but it's about a wrongful maybe accusation. Is this no different with the Ben Roethlisberger thing? How can these people not see beyond the I support team X and you support team Y, and that making a joke and calling someone a rapist is not funny? And the same people will condemn the stuff that's going on in these college campuses where you have college coaches, paying for sexual favors for recruits, or the whole rape culture thing that's supposedly, going on. Those accusations, some of those true and some of those have found to be false. Very serious things that destroy people's careers and people's lives. But apparently, because you're a football player, potentially a future Hall of Famer, for all we know, is innocent, it's okay to make those type of jokes about them? This is completely ridiculous. I don't understand where these people come from and think that that's acceptable, but it's not acceptable in other ways. I couldn't imagine being in someone's shoes, being in that position of being not only accused of something of that nature, but then to continue to basically be exonerated of it, to try and put it in your past, and people just keep piling it on. It's just disgusting, and it's gross. Lest we forget that I really do think, let me concentrate on this for 1 second to just get off try and lighten the mood maybe just a little bit. Is it that the fans of the Cincinnati Bengals are so petty that their team has not done anything in 25 years? When's the last time they won a playoff game? 1990, 1991? Somewhere in that ballpark. They have not won anything or done anything meaningful in so long that they have to resort to this lowbrow sense, sort of humor to try and get under someone's skin, because they know that I run these shows. They know that Joe has written 300 articles on SteelCityUnderground.com and goes to Steelers games, watches all the games. You know, I've freaking eat, breathe, and sleep black and gold, and try and get under my skin by making a crude joke about another player. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is a married man with 3 children. He just had his wife Ashley with him. Congratulations, by the way. I doubt he's listening, but still, I wish him congratulations last week on welcoming their 3rd kid into their life. They have their other 2 children. There's Ben Jr. and Bailey. And that was back in, Ben Jr. was born in 2012. Bailey was born in 2014. So the last 6 years, the last 4 years and 3 children later, do you think that Big Ben wants to talk to Ben Jr. and explain why someone is calling him a rapist? Do you think that his wife appreciates hearing that all this much later? I mean, we don't know the circumstances around it necessarily. I don't. They don't. Ben does. He was there. But if the guy has done nothing wrong, and he still was punished for it, and he took it, he paid his penance, he sat out 4 games in 2010, might I remind you, not charged of a crime. And Michael Vick, on the other hand, who I feel has already paid his debt to society. I had said as much last year, let it go. And Michael Vick originally committed a federal crime and then suspended 6 games but reduced to 2. But you have a player who, may I add, sat out 4 games for basically nothing of that nature. I could see if he was charged with the crime. I could see that the NFL thinks that they're getting a black eye. But there's plenty of other behavior that's going on and going unpunished. Finally, Vontaze Burfict's going to be sitting out 3 games to start this year. And the Steelers fans won't see him. But even if we did, do you think that Pittsburgh Steelers fans would throw garbage on Vontaze Burfict like the Cincinnati Bengals fans threw garbage on Ben Roethlisberger when he was carted off the field injured in that wild card game? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have crossed a line that we shouldn't have crossed. There's called being tasteless. There's called being classless. And that's exactly what some of these fans are doing. And I can't tolerate it anymore. And I hope many of you might feel the same way as I do. And if you do, please shoot me a message. Respond back. Send me a tweet. Comment on Facebook. Comment on YouTube, wherever you listen to this. Let me know if you're just as fed up with hearing this from opposing teams' fans. Is enough enough? I think enough is enough long ago. I think in 2010 enough was enough. It was just ridiculous the amount of attention that this was that this brought on. And then you have people mentioning rape when somebody like Vince Williams is just trying to catch a little bit of the spotlight of the gorilla story that's out there, while also trying to make a joke, no matter if you think it's in good or poor taste. And then he also, well, he kind of apologized for it. He tweeted a picture of Martin Lawrence from the old Martin show and says, "Y'all got to lighten up." And I think I do agree. Maybe I got to lighten up, and maybe I just was way oversensitive to these comments. But if you don't think I am, please let me know that I'm not the only one out here who's going crazy hearing this same garbage, this lowbrow stuff that has no place in the game of football. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me my pedestal and soapbox to talk on today. This off the field stuff is just absolutely wild. I can't believe that there are people who think this behavior is okay and that it's acceptable. And like I said, if it's not, please let me know. Once again, thank you for listening. Be good, be safe, and I'll catch you soon.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.